Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm honestly super excited to guide you through a topic that is just absolutely crucial right now: strategic agility and business self-evaluation. Look, if you glance around at the current economic landscape, you'll see shifts happening faster than ever. I mean, companies and professionals that were just totally crushing it 6 months ago are suddenly scrambling, right? Just resting on past successes or kind of assuming the market's going to bounce back in your favor, well, that simply isn't an option anymore. There's this urgent, undeniable need to just stop, look inward, and completely reevaluate ourselves, our baseline strategies, and our everyday processes. So we're going to dive deep into exactly how you do that, breaking down the mechanics of survival and growth using some incredibly direct, eye-opening insights from our source material.
Okay, let's dive into this with a question that, frankly, might make you a little uncomfortable. Are you still using the classical method to sell? Think about what that classical method actually looks like out in the wild. You know, relying on those predictable quarterly pushes. Using rigid sales funnels that just assume a buyer is always going to follow a neat, predetermined path. It's leaning heavily on broad, mass market outreach because, hey, in a booming economy, a well-oiled machine of cold calls and standard pitches feels like it's always going to yield consistent results, right? We all get comfortable with that routine. But our source material challenges that exact complacency right out of the gate. If your honest answer here is yes, you might be setting yourself up for a real rude awakening in the current market.
And here's exactly why. The text puts it incredibly bluntly: we cannot use the classical method to sell during low, tough economic times. I want you to let that sink in for a second. When budgets freeze up and consumer confidence just drops, those old, reliable playbooks literally burn up. Risk tolerance basically vanishes during periods of economic friction. Your buyers are suddenly scrutinizing every single penny, and a traditional, pushy sales pitch isn't just ineffective anymore, it's actively off-putting. The old ways of doing things, the ones that were built for a time of abundance, they just have to be completely abandoned. Now, I know it's a harsh reality to accept, but recognizing that the ground has shifted beneath your feet, that's the very first step toward actually finding your footing again. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it shows we are fundamentally standing at a crossroads. The rigid, predictable, classical methods of the past, they're simply going to crumble under these current economic pressures. There's a stark contrast between what used to work and the only real path forward, which requires embracing strategic agility and change. You really can't straddle the line between these two mentalities. Like, you can't just keep a rigid quarterly plan but try to execute it a little bit faster and hope for the best. Moving from a mindset of classical predictability to a mindset of strategic agility isn't just a nice theoretical business concept. According to our source, it is an absolute survival directive. It basically requires a complete rewiring of how you approach your daily operations from the ground up.
So, what does this agility actually look like in practice? Let's anchor our understanding with a clear definition pulled right from the text. Strategic agility is the ability to change marketing processes, relook personal business plans, and reevaluate skills during tough economic times. It's absolutely not just a corporate buzzword, it's a comprehensive pivot. Think about it like a giant puzzle. Imagine a high-end B2B software company. In a good economy, they're selling massive, multi-year enterprise packages. But with strategic agility, when the economy gets tight, they don't just push that exact same package harder. No, they immediately pivot to offering a scaled-down, modular, month-to-month version that helps their cautious clients save money right now. It requires you to be completely fluid, willing to deconstruct how you operate on a foundational level.
Okay, moving right along to Section 1, the self-evaluation process. Specifically, revisiting and reevaluating yourselves. So, the crucial point is, to actually execute this evaluation and survive, you've got to master a highly specific 3-step roadmap outlined in the text. Step 1, relook your personal business plan. Step 2, change your marketing processes. And Step 3, reevaluate your skills. We're going to break down the deep, actionable details of each of these core pillars right now.
Let's start right at the foundation. Step 1 is to relook the personal business plan. Look, if your foundational strategy was built for a booming economy, it's totally misaligned for a tough one. Going back to the drawing board here means getting incredibly granular. You need to look at your 12-month projections and seriously consider chopping them down to maybe 30 or 90-day sprints, mainly because long-term forecasting is, well, it's nearly impossible right now. Those assumptions you made 6 months ago about customer acquisition costs or lifetime value, yeah, they're probably obsolete. You've got to audit every single expense line and ruthlessly strip away any vanity projects. And more importantly, you need to rethink your target demographic. Are you currently trying to sell to a sector that is actively slashing their budgets? If you are, you've got to pivot those core business goals to target industries that are actually recession resistant. Because without this deep, foundational shift, any surface-level changes you make are just going to fall flat.
Let's move to and see how this builds. Once your business plan is updated, step 2 is that you must change the marketing process and, specifically, become agile in marketing. Now, what does agile marketing actually mean in this context? Well, it means you can absolutely no longer rely on rigid 6-month ad buys or these massive, inflexible campaigns. Agility means rapid A/B testing. It means looking at your campaign data weekly or heck, even daily, and pivoting your ad spend in real time based on what those analytics are screaming at you, rather than just waiting around for a quarterly review. It also means drastically shifting your messaging. If your previous marketing focused on luxury, status, or ultimate convenience, you need to urgently pivot that message to emphasize value, fast ROI, and risk reduction. You really have to actively speak to the immediate pain points of a much more cautious consumer base, and you have to do it fast.
And that brings us to the ultimate reality check. Step 3, reevaluate your skills. Honestly, this is perhaps the most critical and probably the most difficult step of all the things we've talked about, because totally abandoning the classical method requires an incredibly honest assessment of your own capabilities. Just think about it. If you've just updated your business plan to focus on short, data-driven sprints, and your marketing is now entirely reliant on real-time digital testing and agile pivoting, do you actually know how to read out data? Do you possess the crisis communication skills required to speak with terrified clients and actually reassure them? The gap between classical sales skills and agile business skills is massive. The old way rewarded sheer persistence and a great elevator pitch, but this agile way, it rewards analytical speed, digital fluency, and total adaptability. So you really must audit your own resume today, figure out exactly where your skill gaps are, and start bridging them immediately.
I want you to take a hard look in the mirror today. In a tough, low economy, are your skills actually agile enough to survive? Seriously, don't just gloss over this question. Have you actually adapted your foundational plan? Are your marketing efforts truly agile and responsive to the data coming in? Are your personal skills sharp enough for this new, incredibly unforgiving reality? Because in a tightened economy, strategic agility isn't just an advantage or some neat trick. It's literally your only path forward. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, stay adaptable, and get to evaluating right now.